And also I'd add to that that I've asked many, many times, I've wondered what Abraham must have been thinking when he said, God, are you kidding me? Now? I'm going to do what? But these 5 things were some things that came out of this long journey of prayerful listening and paying attention to. So first of all, one of the things that we believe God is inviting us into is, as Charlotte described, is creating this community, these companions of people who want to intentionally engage together in spiritual formation, becoming more and more like Christ, growing in our relationship with Christ. It's an intentional, formative community. It's not another congregation, but it's recognizing the need that we can't grow in our relationship by ourselves, that we need other companions. Because, as someone said about, about intentional community, is that 90% of the work in community is shadow work. It's stuff we don't see in ourselves. And so that's an engagement of being formed into the image of who Christ has made us to be. So by intentional, we mean being awake, alert, engaged, saying, yes, we are intending to make this journey. By formative, we mean, again, it's the thing that God has called us to through Jesus Christ, to be conformed to the image of his Son, Jesus, to be fully human, fully alive human beings, dependent on the Holy Spirit. And by community, we mean a called out people who desire to pursue the one necessary thing that Jesus talked about when he talked to Martha. In loving relationship with other committed companions of Jesus, we acknowledge that we cannot fully mature in our relationship with Christ alone, that we need others. And so that's what we are drawing ourselves into, to pursue the main thing, the one thing, the thing that Paul says, this is the one thing I desire above everything else, and that is to know Christ, to know the power of his resurrection, the fellowship of his suffering, and to be conformed to the image of his death. That is the pursuit. And we're asking, Lord, will you bring together a group of people that would make this journey with us, because that's what we long for. It is, as another person said, it's the glory of God manifest in human beings fully alive and alert and awake to all that God is for us and all of who we are for God. The model of this community is the Holy Trinity. One of the things when I was at High Street a number of years ago that I started to pursue and get involved in was this study of the Trinity. And I was so intrigued by this relationship, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and recognizing that we are created in their image. And so they're the model for us. That's what we're pursuing, is saying, who are they? How do they relate to one another? And how are they inviting us into, as Jonathan Edwards says, this community of the Trinity? And that is the invitation for all believers. As we move toward this community embrace, we realize that there's going to be core values that we need to put together, to discern and saying, Lord, what are these important core values? And we're in the process of doing that right now. Saying these are the things that bind us. These are the things that we say above all else we're going to pursue because we want to make this journey together. And so we're in that process of making those discernments right now. There'll be 2 aspects to this community life. One will be residential. It'll be a place that we are praying for right now. Lord has it. We don't know the location yet. But a place where people who desire to live in a sustainable community life together. Kind of simplify things down. It's not, as somebody else said, I think it was our youngest daughter says, Dad, are you starting a cult? Says, no. And it's not even a Christian commune, okay? But it is an intentional community. There will be a residential aspect of it. It'll be sustainable in the sense that we'll be able to grow food, maybe raise some animals, maybe even use this in a way of outreach towards Santa Cruz County. It'll be a place where we can mentor and do apprentices with some of the younger folks that would come alongside of us. But it'll be a place. So there'll be a residential community. There'll also be a dispersed community. There are people who say, you know what, I want to make this journey, but I'm not in this place right now where we can take the residents. And so we're saying, okay, So here are the core values. Here are the things that we are aligning ourselves with you in terms of our own formative journey in becoming more and more like Christ for the sake of the world, that these folks will join together as well. What we need to discern is then what would that community life look like? Obviously, we need to spend some time together. Obviously, we need to laugh and cry and work together. And so there'll be some of those aspects that will be moving out of that. Another thing that I'm very nervously excited about is the fact that we have really tried to resist with the counsel of a couple of really godly folks that have been in our lives saying, listen, once God has placed us in, don't go running ahead of God and trying to figure it all out. Let God unfold this as God desires to unfold it. So some of this is going to come and happen and develop as God brings these different personalities and these different giftings together to live in this way together for the glory of God, for our own personal growing up into Christ, and to the full measure and stature of Christ, and also for the sake of the world, starting here in Santa Cruz. So that'll be the two aspects of community.